The world looks to California to answer the hard questions, for redemption, to introduce the unfamiliar, to be resilient. Because California bounces back, holds us accountable, values who we are, remains vigilant, defies those in our way, and stands for community. Here on the West Coast, we're at the center of it all. Los Angeles Times, the state of what's next.
And now it goes to the voters, you all. This is your voice, this is your vote. You're going to tell us where you stand. I'm Frank Luntz. Welcome. First question, because people are tuned in right now, they want to know where you stand. On the count of three, I want you to belt it out so that people 100 miles away can hear from you. You ready? 1, 2, 3. I didn't get it. Let's try one more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that basically is what's going on right now. That's why this race is too close to call. You've got 4 candidates that are in double digits. Other candidates hope to get there, and tonight's debate is going to determine, it could well determine, who wins in California. You all are holding dials. Hold them up for a second. These are going to register your points of view second by second, moment by moment, as you watch each candidate. The more you want to vote for them, the higher you turn your dial. The angrier you get, the lower you turn your dial. Perfection is 100. Awful is 0. But first we have to register you. If you consider yourself a conservative or moderate, turn your dial to 1. If you consider yourself a liberal or progressive, turn your dial to 2. Does everyone have the correct number? No. Turn that dial. Remember, you have to turn. You all set? Okay, we got a lot more liberals here than we do moderates, so let's try to even it out just a little bit. Did anyone turn your dial to progressive, but you think a moderate might be better to defeat the current president? Anybody here? So if you prefer a moderate, turn your dial to 1. If you prefer progressive, turn your dial to 2. Let's try that. Let's see if you get it any closer. Okay, let's take that. Perfect. Tonight, you're going to be reacting second by second to everything each candidate says. But before we get to that, I want to know a word or phrase. We're going to do a few of the candidates now, because I want to see what matters to you. So if I say the front runner nationally, Joe Biden, what word or phrase comes to mind when I say Joe Biden?
He can beat Trump.
Electable.
Experience. Dementia.
Oh, that's me. Do you say that to your family members too?
Oh, my family members, none of them support Biden, so I wouldn't know.
Respectable.
Let's do one more row. Joe Biden.
Forced.
Voted for the Iraq War, voted against busing.
He can beat Trump.
Compassionate.
Not a good choice.
Out of touch.
I was going to say that. Old.
Integrity.
Okay, let's try a different candidate now, and I'm going to start with you back there. Elizabeth Warren, word or phrase?
Fantastic.
Great ideas.
Hard worker.
Smart. Not electable.
Fake liberal.
That's also pretty strong.
I don't think she really stands for her values.
Be careful when you drive out of here. I think people are going to be keen. Keep going.
Honorable.
Intelligent.
Steady.
Fighter.
Strong.
Too liberal to be Trump.
Okay, now we're going to do, and I'm going to start with the middle row, Bernie Sanders, word or phrase?
Electable.
Punk rock.
Punk rock. I've heard of a lot of descriptions. Why punk rock?
He marched with King. He was actually there. He lived through it.
So basically, when you think of the Sex Pistols, you think of Bernie Sanders.
No, I mean, the Sex Pistols, no, a little deeper than that.
Bernie
I
Sanders.
love him, but except this health care plan, he won't be Trump.
Heart attack, old guy.
That's pessimistic.
Like him a lot, but he is too old.
Crotchety.
Polarizing.
Unafraid.
Okay, we're going to do one more because we're going to run out of time. Word or phrase to describe Mayor Pete.
Bland.
Sociopath.
Do you hate... Who's your candidate? I'm curious.
I'm for Bernie Sanders.
So you just hate everybody else?
Not particularly, no. I don't think they're bad people trying to do bad things. I just think that they're a little bit self-interested and not particularly interested in saving lives at this particular moment in time with their policies.
Mayor Pete.
I would say, I just like his openness.
Sharp.
Very capable, but can't be Trump.
That's interesting. I want to do a few people in the back row. Mayor Pete.
Too gay to beat Trump.
Too what?
Gay to beat Trump.
Do you really mean that?
I do. I don't think America's ready for a gay president.
I'm going to stop because that's the purpose of this, is to have a conversation. I give you credit for being willing to say that. Does anybody want to respond?
I hope that's not true, but it might be.
How many of you think, I'm not even going to say it because I could see this taken out of context. How many agree with what he said? Raise your hands. And how many disagree with what he said? Any comments about this, about Mayor Pete and that issue? Yeah?
I think he deserves his voice, and he deserves a chance to speak his mind, and he deserves to be a candidate. I mean, why not?
I think a lot of people don't have doubts that he won't get elected because we don't like that he's gay. It's just that the right conservatives won't vote for him because he's gay.
Yeah.
They're not going to vote for any Democrat anyway. I think he speaks to a whole young generation who doesn't vote typically, and I think he can energize that vote.
I don't think he speaks for a young generation that's more to the left of Pete.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I don't think he's a bad candidate because he's gay. I think that's perfectly fine. I think he's a bad candidate because he's a Republican.
He's not a Republican.
I mean,
He's moderate, and he has the closest views, I think, to Barack Obama of any candidate that's running.
Right.
You got this look on your face like, no.
Yeah, he's a moderate. I like him. He's smart, and I don't listen really to any other candidates except Mayor Pete when he speaks.
Go ahead.
I find him to be a boilerplate candidate who is running more on his biography and on demographics in terms of saying the right thing than really standing for something that he wants to do for us, the American people. His sexual orientation has nothing to do with it.
Well, okay. Some of you came in here when we recruited you over the last week. Some of you said the candidate you supported was Joe Biden. But when I asked you and pushed you, you told me you were actually undecided. Can you explain why? There are a few of you in here. Yes.
Well, my candidate was Beto, and I felt very strongly about him. I grew up in El Paso, Texas. I think he's bringing those issues of the border to light, but it's really hard when you break up with somebody to find somebody new that fits the bill. So I haven't really found anybody that, excites me the way that Beto did. I was first leaning towards Bernie.
This is great, by the way. This is like a dating video.
I was leaning towards Bernie, and now I start to worry about electability, and so I've been veering toward Biden. And I think the way that Biden has acted in the last, week or two has been very energized, and I like what I see.
So there are a couple more here who said Biden when we recruited you, but now that you're sitting here, you're telling me undecided. Who else? Come on.
Well, for myself personally, I don't have much passion for any of them as I did for, say, Barack Obama. At the end of the day, I'm going to vote for whether it's Biden, whether it's Sanders, whether whoever turns out to be the candidate in the end, I will vote that way. I'd be comfortable with Joe Biden. It depends on who he chooses as a running mate. I would like to see somebody person of color, female, I think we're all a little bit tired of the old white, sorry, male. Sorry,
I don't take that personally.
You're not old.
Oh, I'm much older than you realize. Last time I looked, I was male and I was overweight. So, one more view on Biden. What's the issue? He was and is still nationwide the front runner, but his numbers have come down. What is it?
I think that with everything going on now with Trump and Ukraine and Hunter Biden, to nominate Joe Biden it's like someone who lives in a glass house throwing stones. To me, that's what it is.
Somebody else.
It's unproven, and I mean,
No, but
it's false.
still, I think you have a point there. I think there is.
It's really bad timing.
There is something that, I think the polls went down for Biden because of the Ukraine situation.
But there are still people here who support him. Why? Yes.
He's wildly compassionate, intelligent. He can heal America from the trauma that we've endured. I wish he were 20 years younger. I think that's the problem, not his son.
Can we get one more person to speak up for him? Go ahead.
I think he's easily the most experienced person. I mean, he's been a senator for how many years and vice president for 8 years. He's been in the Oval Office. And frankly, my number one thing is we have to beat Trump. So, and I think nationwide he is, I mean, I'm going to vote for whoever gets nominated. But I think...
Is that the way for everyone here? Yes. Is there anyone here who would consider voting for Donald Trump?
No.
You are his worst nightmare.
Why should we vote?
Let me ask you a couple more questions, and then we're going to get to the debate, because it's coming up in a few minutes. Elizabeth Warren, is she electable?
Yes. I hope so.
I think so.
Tell me why.
She's better than Hillary.
She's better than Hillary.
I disagree.
Why?
I think that Hillary had a lot more experience. I'm not sure that Elizabeth Warren's going to connect with the Midwest. That's just concerns, but I feel comfortable if she does win the nomination that I would vote for her.
Exactly. I think she's very comfortable to speak with relatives and stuff that I have in the Midwest. They remind me of her. It feels like that very down home, I'm just here to do the work. And I know it's a very emotional reason, but that's what I connect to.
I do think she connects with people as far as the popular vote. I don't see her connecting with Ohio or Florida. And in those terms, she's not electable.
Go ahead.
I like Elizabeth Warren. She's a woman with vision and a woman with a plan. But my concern is, even though I know she would make a great president, the men of this nation are not ready to yield the power. They're perfectly fine with a woman running things from behind the scenes. I mean, we've had great presidents. We had Hillary basically running the White House through her husband, and we had wonderful years. We had Michelle running the White House through her husband, and we had great years. But men are not ready for a woman to be the lead, to take the lead. They won't do it.
Okay, are you ready?
Am I?
No, are you?
Okay. 2016, I mean, she should have won. I think we were ready.
Got more votes.
Got more votes.
What else were we supposed to vote for?
Live in different states.
Go ahead.
I think if Michelle would be on this stage tonight, I think the majority here would vote for her.
Well, let's find out. If Michelle Obama were a candidate for President of the United States, how many of you would pick her as your first choice? Holy cow. And I've cleaned up, I want credit from the LA Times audience, I've cleaned up my language. Let me count. If Michelle Obama were the candidate, who would say that she'd be your first choice? We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 of you. The 3 of you back there. Why her?
She's sharp, intelligent. She's willing to consider different vantage points. She's a coalition builder. And depending upon who she would pick to run with her, that would be my deciding factor.
Why Michelle Obama?
Well, I just have good memories of her with her husband, and she's a great speaker. And I mean, I believe she would probably believe most of the same things as her husband, which I agreed with. So that's why I would like Michelle.
Of all the people, you chose Michelle first. Why?
She's eloquent and classy and will hold her head high as a president.
So I got to do this. Yeah, go ahead.
That said, I've always said, I think Michelle is too smart to want the job.
I think you got some sort of consensus here. Just for the heck of it, second row, word or phrase to describe Michelle Obama.
What's the question?
Word or phrase to describe Michelle Obama.
Strong black woman.
I don't know her policies.
Strong black woman.
Eloquent dances, sings.
I like her, but not qualified to be president.
Powerful.
That's a celebrity feel.
Fierce.
So how many of you think that the Democrats are going to win in November? I don't want you to tell me that you want them to. How many of you think Donald Trump loses in November? Raise your hands. How many of you think Donald Trump gets reelected? I got to ask. Tell me why.
Because how he got elected in the first place is unfathomable to me. And the fact that his base hasn't, they haven't gone anywhere, I think people thought all of these people doing things were Russian bots, but they're our friends and neighbors.
We got to go to the debate. Everyone grab your dials. You're going to start at 50. Let's turn on the TV so they can see it. The more you like what you're seeing, the more you want to vote for that person, the higher you go. Let's turn on the sound. If you dislike what they're saying, the lower you're going to go. I want you to react to every word, every phrase. Repeat after me. I won't leave it at 50. Repeat after me. I will turn it up if I really like it. I will turn it down if I hate it. If this is perfect, I'm at 100. If it stinks, I'm at 0. The moderator's not fat. I love you. Let's watch the debate.
Businessman Tom Steyer.
But isn't the market risky? Put the money in the broad
Welcome to all, and we will be right back to begin the debate.
Very conservative. It's going to fluctuate just because the stock market fluctuates.
What's happening
but if
to
you're just taking a small amount each year, you don't care at all about that. Like a stock market crashes, you're still taking over 4%. Your stock market goes up, you're still only taking 4%. So that averages out over time.
Don't spend money on things you don't actually need, he says. And don't drive so much.
The proposals I'm putting forward would make me the most progressive president in my lifetime.
If people are tired of the extremes in our
way more expensive
they've
than
got a
most
home
people
with
think.
me.
Most people think about gasoline as the cost of driving. Really, it's about 5 times higher. For 10 gas, it's 15 bucks a gallon. Then you're starting to get an estimate of how expensive driving really is.
Due to depreciation, maintenance, insurance. Adrian also saves so much because he's a do-it-yourselfer.
This is the PBS
Take his
NewsHour
house.
Politico
The one that
Democratic
we live
Debate.
in now, I built almost
Live
entirely
from
from
Los
scratch.
Angeles,
So
Judy
you
Woodruff.
put in your own plumbing.
Yeah.
Welcome back. A quick reminder
Did
of
you
the
run
rules
floor?
for this debate. Each candidate
that's
has
part of
1
the
minute
House.
and 15 seconds
Did
to
you run
answer
electricity?
direct questions
I would do
from the
my own heart
moderators.
surgery if it
And
was safe.
45 seconds to answer rebuttal
Last
and
year,
follow-up
Aidney
questions.
renovated a
Tonight's
dilapidated
podium
building
order
on
the
Longmont's
stage
Main
was
Street
determined by
to
an
create a
average
co-working
of
space for
recent
fellow
polls. And let's
mustachians.
begin.
And he added what he calls a tiny house conference.
fact, well, that's not true. Some are going to be actually voting in the Senate. But my job is to just go out and make the case why he doesn't deserve to be President of the United States for another 4 years.
Back to 50.
Why
Back
do
to
you
50,
think
everyone.
more people are not in support of impeachment? What else can you do?
Well, Judy, what I would say is that we have a president who is a pathological liar.
React.
We have a president who is running the most corrupt administration in the modern history of this country. And we have a president who is a fraud, because during this campaign, he told working people one thing, and he ended up doing something else. I believe, and I will personally be doing this in the coming weeks and months, is making the case that we have a president who has sold out the working families of this country, who wants to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid after he promised he would not do that, and who has documentedly lied thousands of times since he is president. And the case to be made is, yeah, certainly I disagree with Trump on virtually all of his policies. But what conservatives, I think, understand is that we cannot have a president with that temperament who is dishonoring the presidency of the United States.
Back to
Senator Warren,
50.
why do you think?
Only go up that high if you really love it.
Agree that this is the right thing to do, and what more can you say?
So I see this as a constitutional moment. Last night, the president was impeached, and everyone now in the Senate has taken a constitutional oath to uphold our Constitution, and that doesn't mean loyalty to an individual. It doesn't mean loyalty to a political party. It means loyalty to our country, and that vote will play out over the next several weeks. But the way I see this is we've now seen the impact of corruption, and that's what's clearly on the stage in 2020.
React.
Is how we are going to run against the most corrupt president in living history. You know, this president has made corruption originally his argument that he would drain the swamp, and yet he came to Washington, broke that promise, and has done everything he can for the wealthy and the well-connected, from tax breaks to ambassadorships. We have to prosecute the case against him, and that means we need a candidate for president who can draw the sharpest distinction between the corruption of the Trump administration and a Democrat who is willing to get out and fight, not for the wealthy and well-connected, but to fight for everyone else. That's why I'm in this race.
Senator Klobuchar.
Back to 50, please. Again, only go way up if you
Klobuchar, what
really love
argument
it.
can you make to persuade more Americans this is the right thing?
Let me make the case to the American people. As a wise judge said, the president is not king in America. The law is king. And what James Madison once said when he was speaking out at the Constitutional Convention, and by the way, I think he's a pretty good size for a president. He was 5'4". And what he said the reason that we have these impeachment articles in the Constitution, that the provisions are in there, is because he feared that a president would betray the trust of the American people for a foreign power.
We ready? Okay, with the first segment on the economy done, I don't care who you support, tell me which candidates' ideas and words you like the most. I don't care who you support, who did the best in the economy. Who says Joe Biden? Raise your hands. 2, 4 of you. Who says Mayor Pete? 1, 2 of you. Who says Elizabeth Warren? 2, 4, 6, 8. Who says Bernie Sanders? 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So knowing how you came in here, Elizabeth Warren did the best compared to who was supporting her when you walked in. Why was her language and her ideas so good? Somebody. Don't be quiet.
I'd like to, my younger sister, trying to go back to school, the whole child care, making to hire people who are qualified in child care and help supporting.
Go ahead.
I think she's speaking plainly in terms of words that I feel like I get and my family gets in terms of what will change for me when she's elected, and that simplicity makes it clear to me.
Yeah, I think her specificity, which is what is one of the things that she is sort of known for. She has the plan, and she actually has specifics. So when she talks about how that economy changes by taxing, that it's going to impact people directly, and she's very specific about it, it helps us really connect with it and see the difference.
By far the biggest thing is just the stage and screen presence. I mean, I agree with everything most candidates have said to varying degrees. She said more of it because she spoke a lot more.
Anyone else? Why Warren was so good? Go ahead.
I think that she makes it simple that
Yeah.
the people with less money, they're gonna grow the economy more by spending it instead of the rich people who just are gonna hoard it.
I agree. I think her simplicity is a winner, and her saying that only the top, I don't know how many, 1% should pay the taxes, shows that she understands that they're not going to spend that money and bring it back into the economy, make the economy grow.
Everyone go back to 50. Let's turn the debate back on. Thank you. Restroom. Okay. I don't want to lose more people. So one of you back there, one person go in the next break. Okay, guys, can you guys move over just for a second? And can you move over? And if you can move over one, yes. Okay. So I'm looking at the dials, and I see that this is between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. They're getting the highest consistent dial scores. They seem to be saying the most positive statements or most powerful to you. But which one of those two is winning this debate tonight? Who says, and again, I don't care who you support, who says the language of Bernie Sanders is better? Raise your hands. And who says the language of Elizabeth Warren? So please tell me, why Sanders and why Warren?
Warren seems to be a little more concise. Bernie tends to kind of go off on a tangent, and that is, a problem.
I think Biden's the only one who goes on a tangent. I think Bernie's always sincere, he's always genuine, and he never changes his positions. And with Warren's backtrack on her healthcare proposal, I think that...
We haven't even talked about healthcare tonight.
Okay.
Can you stick to what we are focused on?
Bernie Sanders is always genuine. And
So you're never going to say anything nice about Elizabeth Warren?
I have a lot of nice things to say about Elizabeth Warren, but I think that they both represent progressive values, but that Bernie Sanders is the more electable.
But that is not the question I asked you. Who can answer the question I asked you? Go ahead.
Sanders, I think, is more relatable to a lot of people. He has a style of speaking that is, he has a little bit of a sense of humor. He can make people laugh. He can open up the audience in that way. It's just different communication styles. I find him to be more effective.
Do you guys agree with that?
I disagree. I find that, for me, I appreciate the passion, but it's like always at a 10. I feel that's one of the reasons I like Pete. He just talks to me. Can you just talk to me? And I feel that Elizabeth kind of splits the difference in that she's also passionate and articulate and sharp, but she's not always at a 10.
Go ahead.
I like that Sanders reiterated the importance of climate change. He was, with the question about race, he tied it back to climate change.
And you didn't feel that Elizabeth Warren did that?
I did, not as effectively.
Go ahead.
I think that Elizabeth Warren just has her stuff together. She has her talking points. She has her policies clear. She can speak effectively to all of the points that are asked of her because she has taken time to consider her position on every issue.
And you don't think Bernie Sanders has done that?
I don't think his position has changed on anything. I think he's been running the same Bernie show for years, and he sticks with it. He sticks with the program, and that's why he can effectively communicate his message, because his message has never changed.
Jumping off of that, it's the specificity that I think Warren kind of gets across really well. Bernie, to me, seems to be going back to the same talking points.
I just wanted to, not second guess, back that up. I thought Warren had a lot more detail. Bernie speaks, he's very passionate, but he speaks at a very high level, whereas Warren had a lot more detail.
I do agree that Bernie's passion is always at a 10 and that he does keep coming back to the same talking points, but that is largely what works. People aren't watching these debates and going back and rereading transcripts. People want 20-second sound bites, and that's what we're going to remember.
So you want 20-second sound bites? Hold on, so you want 20...
I don't personally, but I think that's what resonates with most people.
But you're saying it resonates with you? Come on, be honest. Come on, be honest.
It goes to electability, though.
Explain.
It's the same thing. It's about the sound bites, and Bernie gets his message across very simple, and it comes through that he's passionate about the issues, and that's why I like him. I mean, somebody said he's always at 100. He's always.
I want to stay on this debate, not what you came in here. I want to focus on this.
This segment,
It's funny because I feel exactly the opposite as some people up there on the top row. I feel like Elizabeth Warren sticks to her
Is
talking
there something
points.
we don't know about
She sticks to her talking points. She's very good in a debate, but I mean, how good will she be, governing, and the real world, day-to-day job. And I believe that Bernie Sanders, he knows how to riff on things. He has a set agenda, and he can speak to that.
So I want to expand it now to Mayor Pete and Vice President Biden, because their dials are not going as high as Warren and Sanders. Why not?
I think, Pete, it's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the sense of like, the moderators asked him specifically about Israel and Palestine. And he went on about how Trump is such an embarrassment on the international stage and didn't really say much about his plan for Israel and Palestine.
I think that's what made Bernie so effective, is because he's one of, maybe if the only one possibly, who takes a stand on Israel and Palestine, you know. You may not agree with him, but at least he takes a stance. Buttigieg is kind of like swerving around the whole question.
Oh, I like that dance move.
Biden spoke the most strongly, I think, about Israel. He knows the situation. He was very clear that he wants a two-party state. Nothing else can do.
Well, let's focus, because their Dow scores, for the most part, were not as high, and I'm still trying to figure out why.
Their energy isn't as up as everyone else's. It's not that what they're saying isn't, you know, interesting or true. It's just somehow they don't seem to yield the kind of passion.
I also think there are certain candidates like Buttigieg or Klobuchar, they take a long time to get to the point. I think they're kind of working their way up slowly, while Warren and Sanders, they're right there.
So
They start with the punchline.
Let's talk about Senator Klobuchar. She was one of the rare times when it actually went down. Explain that.
I think the cringeworthy comment of hers that really encapsulates it all is when she said, we need a president from the Midwest because they're the ones that understand climate change. Just the whole air of, I don't have any great policy proposals, but I just think I know more than everyone else. I'm just that special.
Yeah, that's what does it for me. She comes in right off the bat with a joke, and it's just like, stop it.
And on that, let's pull up the debate. Excellent. go straight into it. Am I okay? Can I do it? You ready? Okay. There are a lot of people watching the live feed right now, and they want to know who you think won the debate. You've been reacting with your dials second by second, moment by moment to all the candidates. So when I count to 3, I want you to yell out not who you support, but the winner of tonight's debate, okay? 1, 2, 3.
Sanders.
I noticed that you just delayed it slightly so I could hear your voice. I didn't get a winner. Let's try one more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we're gonna have to take a vote. How many of you thought Joe Biden won the debate? Raise your hands. None of you. How many of you thought Amy Klobuchar won the debate? None of you. How many thought Tom Steyer won the debate? None of you. How many thought Andrew Yang won the debate? We have 3 people here. How many of you thought Mayor Pete won the debate? None of you. How many of you thought Elizabeth Warren won the debate? 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. And how many of you thought Bernie Sanders won the debate? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Now, this is significant because only 6 of you walked in here supporting Sanders. Those people who are not voting for Sanders, but you thought he won the debate, explain to me why. Yes.
I thought his personality came through quite a lot, and for me, that immediate reaction, I always imagine somebody going up against Trump, and that to me sparks like why he won tonight going against these people.
Tell me why.
Because I think he had passion with his answers. He's for the people, and it comes through his answers that he gave us.
Tell me why.
When you still have that many people on the stage in the debate, you need someone who's really animated and who's got the passion and who can still tell you what he's for and not just what he's against. And Bernie's always done that.
I need a couple more who did not walk in here supporting Sanders, but you think he won the debate. Why?
He was very clear in his message regardless. He always stood his ground. He never wavered from his point of view, which is something I've known about him all along. I'm still really leaning towards Warren, but for the debate, he really was effective in his communication of his message and what he stands for.
Let's go back to the debate coverage. Grab your dials. We're not quite done yet. I think these are Okay. 2.5 hours. Too much? Who thought it was too much? Who thought it was about right? Who could go another 30 minutes or even an hour? You care that much? Okay. I know who you thought won the debate. Here's the more important question. Did any of you walk in here supporting someone, and now you're leaning towards somebody else? 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. Okay. Who'd you start with, and who are you with now?
I started with Biden, but after this debate today, I have no confidence that he can beat Trump anymore. I think Andrew Yang stood out. Had he had more time on stage to answer questions, I think he could have put them all in his pocket. I think he's very smart, and I think Andrew Yang is my candidate. However, if somebody else is nominated, I vote for them.
Who'd you start with,
Mayor Pete,
and who'd you end up with?
Elizabeth Warren, who was my number 2 anyway.
Tell me why.
I felt that there was a maturity that was a positive thing for me there in terms of being able to really deliver on a lot of the things that I valued.
There are 2 more of you. Who are the other 2?
Pete,
You started with him.
now Bernie Sanders.
Tell me why.
But I don't want Bernie Sanders to win the primaries because because I know he won't win against Trump. So yeah, I like his message, Bernie Sanders, but I know he won't win because of his health policy. It's to the extreme.
So you like him better, but you're going to vote for somebody else.
Yeah, Joe Biden, because I know he can probably win in the swing states, Pennsylvania. Yeah, he can appeal to the union people. That's why.
And there's one more vote switcher. Who'd you come in supporting?
Well, I thought I liked Amy and Biden.
And who do you like?
Definitely Bernie Sanders.
He won you over also. Tell me why.
He's on fire. He wants this so bad.
Did you say fire?
Yeah, he's on fire.
Explain that. I mean,
He's just feverishly hungry to change the America.
so you responded very favorably to him. My question now is, which is a higher priority? How they communicate or what they stand for? If you had to choose, because when I asked you about Bernie, it was all about his passion. It was about his communication. Which is a higher priority to you as you approach the California primary? Who would say how they communicate? Raise your hands. And who would say where they stand? And yet you told me that it was Bernie's communication. So explain that.
Well, the communication helps you win the presidency. When you are president, then it's what you stand for. But what Bernie can do is he can combat Trump. No matter what Trump says, Bernie has an answer for it, and he's going to say it right away. And I have no doubt of his, he's the best speaker on the stage, so.
With Bernie, it's one and the same. He communicates what he stands for. Because it's not enough to just say you don't like Trump. I mean, of course you don't like Trump, but you got to know what you're for. And I always know what Bernie's for.
I'm someone who cares much more about the issues and how they communicate, but I think I'm in the minority. I think everyone in this room is in the minority because we're the kind of people who would show up to this kind of event. Most of America does not care. We want to know who has the most charisma, who can yell loudest, and I think Bernie absolutely won the debate on those grounds alone.
Yep.
It's just interesting that Biden keeps referring to his history as though that's going to remind people that he's presidential. And I think to a lot of people here, everybody sighed when that's mentioned because it feels like you're not telling me anything specific about the future. You keep telling me what you've done in the past, and a lot of that stuff you've had to change your view on because you've been in politics for so long.
Couple more? Yep.
I think that many of the candidates seem to be running more on resume and personal biography, and they want to be president for personal reasons. I think that there are some people who are running where you can truly viscerally feel that they're doing it because they believe in what they're trying to do, and they're trying to do something for us. I think that whether you support Bernie or not, you feel that he's authentic in what he believes.
Couple more. Yeah.
I was just to respond to that, made me think of why people elected Trump because he was so passionate about stuff to people that he spoke to that it seemed like that was why that was contagious. So I think that's why we're all very aware of that as well.
So I got to ask you the question then. You've seen the debates. You watched tonight. Who's more likely to defeat Donald Trump? I want to put two candidates up for you. Joe Biden, who none of you, I guess, did any of you think he won the debate? One person. Who is a better candidate against Donald Trump? Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden?
Joe Biden.
How many of you say Bernie Sanders? Raise your hands. And how many of you say Joe Biden? Raise your hands. So you still see, even though you don't think he did that great, you still see him. Why is he a better candidate? Yes.
Well, I don't see him as the better candidate. I see him as who is going to appeal to those swing states, who is going to appeal to middle America, who's going to appeal to the ones who think that we're too far left and don't want a Democrat.
Like, we did the exact same thing with Hillary Clinton, and she didn't connect.
Yeah.
And what happened there? So have Bernie Sanders speak the truth to the middle America. Don't talk down to them. Have Bernie Sanders tell them the truth and tell us the truth.
Hillary Clinton got beaten not because of her policies, but because she was slimed by the email scandal and Benghazi, and, you know, Biden doesn't have that baggage.
They're trying. I mean, they're going to do it to everybody.
Well, I disagree with what he said too, and I agree with him on the email issue with Hillary Clinton. But another thing that she did not do, she did not go to a lot of the states that were important for her to win the election and the electoral vote.
I want to keep this focused on what you saw now. Your hand was up.
Oh, I just have a story I used to live in Atlanta and I worked in rural Georgia in Trump country. I was there during the 2016 election and there were all these flags for Trump and I was wearing a Bernie Sanders t-shirt. And I was going to the grocery store in Peachtree City, Georgia, and one of the cashiers says, you know what, he should be president. I voted for Donald Trump, but he should be president.
People say that all the time.
So I want to focus on what's going on here, what you just saw. Go ahead.
I want Joe Biden to heal this country, and I think that he can do that. And we know what he stands for because we saw him in action for 8 years with President Obama, and I trust him. He has integrity and intelligence.
He might have integrity and intelligence, but if he's debating Trump and he's just stuttering, mumbling, doesn't really have like an idea about what he's going to say, then voters are going to recognize that and they're going to see Trump as the more like personable candidate, and they're going to vote him again.
So you're afraid that if Biden gets the nomination, Trump wins the White House?
I really do, because I think there are a lot of similarities between how people feel about him and how they felt about Hillary Clinton. It's like the safe option, like, oh, okay, like we're going to do this, instead of the like risky option.
I feel like Biden needs to do.
Go ahead.
I feel like Biden needs to do more than run on Obama's policies. He needs to come with something new because everything is about what he did and what Obama did in the last 8 years.
And he doesn't answer questions. When they asked him about reparations, he danced around it. But if you follow Bernie's support base and where the money comes from versus Biden's support base and where the money comes from, this is in an information age, when all of that information is transparent and accessible.
And you think Bernie's a better candidate against Trump?
Because if you follow the money and where it comes from people like me that give very, very small donations.
So you're one of those million donors.
Yeah, and I give my time too. It's more important.
So I contest the idea that the debates are really that important.
We had 4 people. Hold on. We had 4 people who came in here in one area, one way, and went to another way. So clearly, there are people watching this.
Ask them again in 2 weeks. Every single debate, Hillary Clinton crushed Trump and her numbers went up. And then 2 weeks later, something else happened and they went back down again. My experience, and for me, the qualities you need to do in a debate have no relationship to being a president. I generally don't watch the debates because, you know, the stupid arguments and it's just ridiculous.
Well, we're going to get into a few of those stupid arguments momentarily. By the way, I don't think they're stupid arguments. I'm just using his language. Go ahead.
To me, Joe Biden is like the antithesis to Trump, but at the same time, it's like getting the same thing all over again. He may not necessarily be a Republican in values, but here we have rich guy, older white guy. His nepotism is causing problems. Trump's nepotism is already causing problems. And they kind of ping pong back and forth. And still, Biden is a little out of touch with the up and coming.
I would like to change your question, because I think it's not between Biden and Bernie. It's not a question who could win against Trump. The question should be, can either of them win against Trump?
I think
And
both.
that's
Yes.
what I think.
Yes.
Neither of them actually can win against Trump. Bernie not, because he's too left and can't get the moderates or some more conservative people, and Biden because he's just too old, he's lost it.
So who's the person who beats Trump?
I think both can beat him.
Well, she doesn't.
Yeah.
So who is it?
I would like to hear more from Andrew Yang, because I think he's young, he's super smart, and I think he can convince people once they have a chance to listen to him.
He can win too, but.
Go ahead.
I think that, there's a reason why we call him Uncle Joe. Because he's really comfortable. He's like a member of the family, and we're all really comfortable with him, which makes him feel like a really safe choice. But there's too much bumbling, and I'm tired of laughing at my leadership.
Yeah.
There is no more room for laughter in leadership. And I am concerned that he gets on a stage with Donald Trump, and we're going to have bumbling. And there's no room for it.
One of Biden's most interesting answers tonight was the response to Afghanistan and going against his administration by saying, no, I said no to the Pentagon, I said no. It was interesting to me that he didn't turn that into a bigger kind of point because he doesn't want to turn his back on the administration that he's running on. So that was part of the problem, was I would love to hear you make a bigger fight about you not wanting to go into Afghanistan, but you wanted to not betray Barack Obama's legacy. And which I'm, of course, a huge fan of Barack Obama, but that is a problem. And so I just thought it was interesting that he didn't take advantage of that to try to distance himself or make it a bigger deal or bring in an independent thinker.
So I'm going to ask you in a moment about the exchange between Buttigieg and Warren. But a bunch of you walked in here supporting him, or at least he was your first choice. And none of you thought he won the debate. What was his... He'll be watching this. What advice do you have of him? Somebody.
He needs to have his own personality. Exactly. He feels to me like, honestly, because he was a consultant, he put together this PowerPoint presentation. We've all, no, anybody that's worked with these Boston Consulting, I have, they put these things together, and it just feels, he doesn't feel authentic.
Exactly.
You know, he could maybe be, I really don't know. He doesn't feel authentic.
What's the issue?
I didn't like the bickering back and forth. So I would advise him not to debate the issue that he thinks is wrong with the other candidate. That's like squabbling, kids squabbling to me.
I felt like Warren attacked him for having high-dollar fundraisers, and as long as you're doing that within the law and you're doing that within like the FEC guidelines, then that's totally fine to raise $2,500. It's not like people are all giving $17 to Bernie Sanders' campaign. Some are giving more, some are giving less.
But some of the issues with Warren and Sanders are specifically healthcare. Those are their main platforms, and he accepts money from healthcare donors. So that if you follow the money and you follow what they're campaigning for and what they're the face of, then he's not legitimate.
And her main argument was that he was doing it behind closed doors, and she felt that it should be in front.
I thought that Buttigieg made a couple really good points about we all have to be in this together. We can't be having purity tests. Yes, it would be great to not have massive amounts of money, excuse me, in our elections, but the fact is we do, and it makes a big difference. You can't walk away from it.
They just attacked him because his numbers are up, period.
Yep.
So I want to ask you the question. First, we're going to edit this in so viewers tomorrow and the next day can actually see what we're talking about. There was that exchange between Mayor Pete and Elizabeth Warren that went on and on and on and on, and I could keep on doing this. First, everybody wants to know who won that exchange. By a show of hands, who think Mayor Pete won the exchange? And who thought Elizabeth Warren won the exchange? So many more Elizabeth Warren. A few of you, explain to me why she did better than him when it went back and forth.
I think specifically because it kind of broke on Twitter that the wine cave room immediately came to my head. So the fact that she was on top of that specificity made me go, oh yeah, you're calling him out exactly on this. If he was able to do that specifically with her, which he was just generally like, you did this before, then maybe I would have been convinced. But I felt like she walked away kind of being able to point to the thing and say, this is not great. And that's what I kind of took away from it.
I thought she won that exchange because she did call Mayor Pete out where he needed to be called out for a $900 bottle of wine, just to get a word in with him. But I also think Mayor Pete did also...
Does that bother you, by the way?
Yeah, it does. Because why not if he could? I mean, that makes no sense to me.
You've never had a $900 bottle of wine?
No.
My problem with Mayor...
For a lot of people.
No, that's a joke, by the way.
Yeah.
Bad
It's just
joke,
enough money
but
to
a
mean
joke.
something.
I think Mayor Pete won that because Elizabeth, for the first time, came off as mean girl, attacking him personally. And he was very clear in being surprised, which I think everyone was, but he also said, look, I'm going to welcome money from anyone because that's the way it is. And he also said that he was for not being able to have money from everybody.
Mayor Pete tried to defend himself by saying that he couldn't be on that stage without that money. But if he has such little experience and so few supporters without that money, then maybe he shouldn't be running for president at all.
Something that she said I want to respond to, you know, Pete Buttigieg was arguing, oh, that's the way it is. Politicians, like, they get donations from big donors. But you have, for instance, with Warren and Sanders, new politicians saying, we don't want it to be like this anymore. We want a new normal where there's not big money in politics, where it's everyday people who are buying the influence.
Okay, but but look, okay, they want the money out of it, but then they're still taking the same money that Buttigieg is taking, and
They're not. They're
yes,
not
they
taking
are.
money from big corporations.
Okay.
They're not.
Anyway, but there is a limit of $2,800 that they can take from each donor, which is legal. So why not do it if it's legal?
Go ahead.
Supporting rich donors also invites rich people involved in super PACs to get involved where they can donate much more money, which is why the repeal of Citizens United was something that came up tonight.
Yeah.
So when you say that you're going to take super PAC money, as I believe every candidate but Bernie has, and when you say that you're going to go to these wine cave fundraisers, that signals not just to donors but to the public that you are willing to take large amounts of money from unsavory, wealthy donors.
We don't know if it's
Is everyone who's wealthy unsavory?
It depends on the wealth.
Hold on. I want to point this out, and then I'm going to you. It depends on the wealth. So if I'm a billionaire, I'm unsavory.
I would say so, yeah.
Billionaire, maybe.
How many of you agree with that? If I'm a billionaire, I'm unsavory.
Because you're just giving the money to influence policy.
Yeah, rich people
Why?
want to protect their wealth. Yeah.
Say that again.
Rich people want to protect their wealth. That's their number one priority.
So if I'm a
For every Tom Steiner, there's 10 billionaires that want to keep their wealth and make more wealth.
And
Look
not
at
pay-
Donald Trump.
And not pay taxes on it, which
Exactly.
got brought up
That's-
many times tonight. And it's surprising that that doesn't connect more with people when they have to pay taxes.
Listen, Frank, if you have $1,000 million, you have a hoarding problem. Nobody needs $1,000 million. Nothing wrong with having $20 million. You've worked hard, you've been successful. That's different than having 1,000 or 2,000 or Bezos has what, $3,000 to $4,000 million?
Why am I unsavory if I'm a billionaire?
I was going to answer a different question.
Why am I unsavory? I want to stay on this for another couple
You aren't
minutes.
doing your part in society. You're hoarding money, you're sitting on a pile of money while 1 million people die in the streets, and
Why-
that doesn't make a good man.
Why am I unsavory?
I think you're unsavory because trickle-down economics doesn't work. The way that people amass that much wealth is through capital ownership. They take their money and they use it to increase the value of their stock options, and they do that by taking away money from their workers. That's why Amazon and Walmart are so successful.
So are you unsavory if you're a millionaire? Because all those.
Millionaire, there's a world.
Oh, it's only billionaire.
difference between a million and a billion.
Okay, no.
A million could be your small little bungalow in the city these days.
Because all of those people on the stage were millionaires, except for Pete Buttigieg, who is courting the same, high dollars.
So again, I want a show of hands. If I'm a billionaire, I'm going to use that word. Who thinks I'm unsavory? Raise your hands. So again, I want to understand this. Why?
I think it's going back to the hoarding problem. Like, if you're a millionaire, you may have worked hard to get your money, but having $1 billion, you're not paying your workers as much as they deserve. Look at Walmart. People that are working at Walmart are on welfare. It's terrible.
Go ahead.
I'm lucky enough to have worked for a couple of billionaires. And they were self-made men. And, they treated everyone kindly. So you just can't make a blanket statement that said, if you're a billionaire, that you're unsavory.
Why are you making that face?
I've had personal experience.
Well,
with
I
people
mean,
that earn
there's
their
just,
money.
there's no, I mean, I'm sure that they can be genuinely nice people or well-intended.
Were you working for them? I mean, like,
But like I believe like at a certain point to accumulate that much wealth, there is no way that you could possibly have accumulated that much wealth without exploiting workers, exploiting millions and.
Yes, there is. A musician.
Why
am I?
Are you?
Period. Right there.
Then they're charging too high ticket prices.
Yes, a musician makes money. They invest money.
I would no, I'm serious.
Yes, for years and years and years and years and years and years. When you're a successful person and you know how to handle your money and you invest your money.
I think it's
But that's
okay.
passive income. That's still passive
Can
income.
I just say that? Because I think maybe some
One
can
at a
agree to
time.
me.
One at a time.
I think it's okay to become a billionaire. So good for you. But then to sit on your money while people are starving, can't pay their medical bills, seniors can't pay their housing, it's unconscionable. So yes, become successful, become a billionaire, and help the country. That's
Jeff Bezos has given 2% of his fortune to charity, was the New Yorker story last month. He's sitting on 98%.
One at a time. It's interesting
Okay, one
that
second.
this issue caused a breakdown in civility.
Okay. Jeff Bezos has given 2% of his wealth to charity. He refuses to sign Warren Buffett and Bill Gates' pledge to give half of his fortune away before he dies. So it's not about having $1 billion. It's about what you choose to do once you have that money.
It's interesting that it's so much passion is involved, because I think what happens too is the reason I am of the view that billionaires are unsavory is in our current system. I don't know why they exist. I don't know why there's people with that much money in our country when there's people who can't afford insulin. And I'm a diabetic, and that's really important to me. So thank you. So I personalize it. I understand it, but I think that's why.
And I thought that was a really interesting point that Elizabeth Warren made, and I think it's sort of what won me over, is when she was talking about how there was this difference within her own family, but there was unity around this idea that Jeff Bezos should be paying his fair share.
Yeah.
And that even though her brothers may have voted for Trump, they also understood this. And I thought that's what won the debate for me, for her, was that being very specific about how we go about bringing people together under common beliefs.
Why don't you like billionaires?
I spent time around a really prominent NBA family in my high school years, and I just saw from an inside view a lot of corruption and a lot of infighting amongst the siblings, and just generally a lack of respect for women in their life. So it's more of a personal viewpoint.
Okay, we're going to move on. There is an exchange between Mayor Buttigieg and Senator Klobuchar, and they talked about their experience, and it got kind of personal. First, we're going to edit in. No, let me do it a different way. We're We're on live, so they're watching this process. For those who tune in tomorrow, you will see the clip. But right now, that exchange, you guys kind of cringed as they were going back at each other. We can play it? Yes. Okay, we're going to play it so you get a chance to react to it.
Recently had a fundraiser that was held in a wine cave full of crystals and served $900
No, that's
a bottle
the
of
wrong
wine.
clip.
Yeah, but
Nice
here's the
going.
problem. If you can't stand up and take
We
the
don't need
steps
this. We did
that
that
are relatively
already.
easy, can't stand up to the wealthy and well-connected when it's relatively easy when you're a candidate, then how can the American people believe you're going to stand up to the wealthy and well-connected when you're president and it's really hard?
First of all, if you can't say no to a donor, then you have no business running for office in the first place. But also, Senator, your presidential campaign right now, as we speak, is funded in part by money you transferred, having raised it at those exact same big-ticket fundraisers you now denounce. Did it corrupt you, Senator? Of course not.
Okay, here's the other clip that we're going to play. I want you to get your reaction. Tell me, whose side are you on?
We know which one.
We know which one.
Okay, help me out here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what live actually looks like. Go ahead.
I thought, like, one part that made my eyes roll was Amy Klobuchar was like, basically, Pete Buttigieg, you don't have as much experience as me. And then he goes, oh, well, I'm a veteran. Are you attacking my veteran experience? And it's not about that. They just kind of twist things and to make more infighting, which isn't needed.
If Pete Buttigieg was a woman, he wouldn't be on that stage.
Well, that's a really strong thing to say.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
With his experience, I feel like women need to have 200% when a man just has 100%.
So again, focusing on that exchange, what side are you on?
Nobody won because it was an utterly pointless exchange.
Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah. I thought Klobuchar, and I fully agree with you, but I thought Klobuchar had a slight edge simply because I agree with that being the mayor of a small town of South Bend, Indiana does not give you the experience you need to be president of the United States.
Anybody want to defend his qualifications? Yes.
Because that makes no sense to me when you have now as a sitting president, a reality show person. That makes no sense to me. That comment.
I think you're still trying to get your head around a $900 bottle of wine. Go ahead.
No, I just think that, obviously the need for qualifications or the litmus test for qualifications has gone out the window when we have the president that we are stuck with right now.
We shouldn't strive to be at his level, though. We should be better,
exactly,
more
trying
qualified.
to raise the bar.
Yeah.
Well, while I appreciate Amy Klobuchar's, experience, I think the way that she just kept saying mayor, like it was a dig, I thought, why are we ego arguing over titles and experience?
I just feel that the part of the problem is that both Amy Klobuchar and Mayor Pete are not as well known to other people. So they have to use this forum, this national forum that they get to promote themselves in these different ways. So they bring up stuff that over time has gotten a little annoying, especially.
Yes.
Because we have heard it before.
Yes.
I think to attack each other at this point in the whole nomination process doesn't make any sense. If there are two candidates, yeah, you can start attacking each other. But there are too many people on the stage. What's the point?
I felt really badly that it was, frankly, this may sound sexist and all kinds of things. Two women were attacking a gay guy on the stage. I didn't like it.
Why?
I didn't think that Mayor Pete had done anything to bring this out. That what they attacked him for had nothing to do with their beliefs.
I think that, yeah,
Amy,
Klobuchar
yes.
is aiming for Buttigieg because of the Iowa polling. And
Yeah,
she's
that's
trying,
right.
and she's from Minnesota, Iowa's right next door. She's trying to win Iowa. That's her only route to the presidency.
So I'm watching your facial reactions to this, and you're kind of harumphing. I'm curious to know what side you're on.
Well,
Take a breath.
do not like. It's something about Klobuchar that just rubs me. She is, she opens her mouth. You know what? It's like she opens her mouth and my ears just go. And Mayor Pete.
Remember, there are children watching.
Of course. Mayor Pete, okay, so you're a veteran. Okay, we have thousands of veterans who, many of them are suffering, okay? And you're gay, so what? Okay? So he took advantage of what is it in the military? Exactly. And, but the thing is, it's like, he doesn't have, and it's true, he does not have the experience, but he tries to present himself as if he is on the same level as the rest of the candidates up on that stage. And he's not.
I'm 45 years old. I was born a few weeks after Nixon resigned, so my whole life has been post-Watergate. There has not been a day, week, month, year where anybody at any level of government has done anything that has had a positive effect on my life. So when Senator Klobuchar and a lot of them get up there and act as though they have accomplished a great deal for us, it kind of rings hollow. I mean, you know, what has Senator Klobuchar, what have really any of them done that has had a positive? I have friends who are Trump supporters and Bernie supporters all across the spectrum, and I ask them all, what has actually happened that has made your life any better? And nobody can come up with anything. Trump supporters can't come up with anything that's gotten any better. Nothing. I still don't have health insurance, and I have a heart problem.
When you started and you were going back to when you were born in 45 years, I had no idea where you were going.
Well, I hope you found it.
Go ahead.
I have Obamacare.
Yeah, me too. That's what and it saved me a ton of money.
Yeah, and it's basically free.
Well, it's not free, it's expensive, but it's...
I get subsidies.
Go ahead.
On my parents' insurance.
But I want to, okay, let's go to the other one.
I work 3 jobs and have no health insurance. And I have a heart problem. And I have a special needs sister and 70-year-old parents who aren't going to live forever. This isn't a game to me. You know, I've buried a friend this week. I've buried so many people over the last few years. There's good odds that somebody in this room isn't going to live to the next election. I'm tired of the horse race. I'm tired of who's up, who's down while people die. This is supposed to be a great country. It's not. Not anymore.
And that does what for who you support?
Andrew Yang's the only candidate who's actually putting something forward that might have some sort of a positive impact on my life.
So
he's talking about specifics. Everybody else is talking about feelings and ideas, and wouldn't it be nice if we could do this?
So if he is not the nominee, and bluntly, it is unlikely that he is, what does that do? Where do you end up?
Well, Trump's a danger to the country. I feel that anybody up on that stage would be a stronger candidate than Trump. I do feel that some of them are more equipped to beat Trump than others. So I would look at it based on who I feel would be the most able to get up on a debate stage with Trump and convince people.
There's one more segment I want to address, which is the Biden versus Bernie. When Biden looked at him and said, put your arm down. And it was the widest division of the dials of the evening. When they talked about Medicare for all, the moderates and the progressives, the spread was 20 points, 30 points in some cases. In that battle, who won?
Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Why Joe Biden?
Because he's being realistic. It's like the voters in the swing states, they're not going to vote for Medicare for all. Those Trump supporters, they're not going to vote for that. It's like it's too much to the extreme. You have to be in the middle.
Polling over the course of the last few months has proven that to be a completely untrue assumption, to be blunt about it, because Medicare for All is popular with, I think it has 60% support across America, and I think like the unrealistic thing would be to run on the same platform that Hillary ran on healthcare, which was, and expect a different result.
Yeah, it can be popular. National. It can be popular, and I would love to take advantage of Medicare for all, but we're going to probably have a mixed, we won't have a Democratic Senate. Probably.
Democratic Senate.
We possibly could, but if we don't, what's going to happen? They're not going to vote for.
They're not going to vote for the ACA either.
Okay.
Vote for anything.
Medicare,
Closer.
I don't think has anything to do with the Midwest not voting for Medicare for all. I think the problem with Trump supporters is that they're ignorant.
Yes.
And the reason, this is my reasoning for saying that.
But I do want to challenge you because people are watching.
Okay.
And that is a very tough thing to say. If I don't challenge you, then I will be challenged.
Okay.
Do you really mean what you're saying?
I mean exactly what I'm saying.
So anyone who voted for Donald Trump is ignorant.
I'm saying those who would go against the health care, yeah, a lot of them are ignorant because either it's that they're ignorant or they just aren't educated or they're not taking the time to understand what's being presented to them. And this is my example, okay? When Donald Trump was initially elected and the Republicans were trying to force through this thing where they got rid of the Affordable Care Act. They went out there and they talked to a lot of these people who voted for Donald Trump, all on the basis that, I'm gonna strike down Obamacare and I'm gonna give everybody something so much better. And what they said, what I heard a lot of was old people who are actually on Obamacare said out of their mouths, I don't like Obamacare. You don't like Obamacare, but that's your health care at the present time. Why do you not like Obamacare? Oh, I didn't know that the Affordable Care Act was Obamacare.
People didn't know that it was the same thing.
Exactly. And that to me is just outright ignorance.
So how many of you agree with this statement that, and I'm just going to say it as you said it, I'm not saying all of them. Donald Trump voters are ignorant. How many of you, by a show of hands, agree with that? Isn't that?
Frank was saying, not as well informed as I would like.
That's exactly what ignorant means. That's what I mean by
but
that.
it's not as harsh.
Frank, I think they lack emotional intelligence. I don't think that they're ignorant. I think they lack emotional intelligence. If you've had somebody with a pre-existing condition, with anemia or whatever it is, insulin, diabetes, excuse me, I don't think billionaires are bad people or unsavory, but if you look at how many people are homeless on the street, and if you look at how wealthy our city is and that exists, I think it's a lack of emotional intelligence.
Okay, I want to ask you a word or phrase as we did earlier on. A word or phrase, I'm going to start in the front row and go around. A word or phrase to describe the average Trump voter.
Stupid.
Cruel. Republican.
Ignorant.
Republican is a good one.
Self-serving.
I'm sticking with ignorant.
Ignorant.
Misinformed.
Racist.
Voted against their own interests.
Misguided.
Selfish.
Living in a bubble.
Ignorant.
Sad.
Uneducated.
Manipulated.
Uninformed. Angry and scared.
I think scared.
I was going to say afraid also.
Hard-headed.
Uninformed.
Duped.
Is anyone here, I need to ask this question, but that was fascinating. And I haven't had a chance to say to you how good you are. This has been an awesome group. There have been a few of you, you haven't said anything. You haven't said anything. There are a few of you who haven't spoken up, but more than half of you have. And I think you're going to impress the people watching by what you had to say and how you expressed this. It's been a very good group, but I can't end it because there's a gentleman who's trying to win in California and spending a lot of money, and he is not in tonight's debate. Mike Bloomberg. Are any of you even considering voting for Mike Bloomberg?
No.
None of you?
No.
We got one.
He's a Republican.
Yes, in the primary. Are any of you considering voting for Mike Bloomberg in the primary?
No.
So his advertising is not working.
No.
So his record as mayor is not working. So Yeah?
For me a little bit.
It is.
I have to be honest, I saw one of his commercials and I was like, oh, he cleaned up New York City, right? And no? Okay.
Can I suggest you not go out to your car alone? Are you considering him?
I was just gonna say it softened my stance on him. Like at the beginning, I was like, "Why is he running?" But I mean, he had some like credentials that he put in the commercial. But I'm probably not gonna vote for him.
Bloomberg?
Oh, no, I was going to say if there's any candidate that was missing from the stage that I wish was up there, it'd be Julian Castro. But not Bloomberg.
And I was missing Kamala.
She's out, though.
I know.
But nobody's missing Mike Bloomberg.
No.
Go ahead.
I don't want to see a fight of billionaire against billionaire, UFC, WWF style. I want to see Bernie versus Trump because we're in a class war. That's what it is. It's Medicare for all versus the status quo. I want to see where it slides.
So
I want to
we're-
see, and Bernie's the only person. Well, I think Warren and him have a similar platform, and I would vote for her as my second choice. I really would. But I want to see it Bernie versus Trump.
Go ahead.
If Mike Bloomberg were the nominee, I'd vote for him, but I don't have any strong feelings about him. He hasn't done anything to win me over, to even make me remember him.
This is not good. He spent millions and millions of dollars, and he's having no impact on you. Okay, final question. What should the people of Los Angeles who read the LA Times or who enjoy the website, what should they get out of what happened this evening? What's your overarching conclusion about what you saw?
I was just disappointed that we didn't hear a little bit more about California, being that this is probably the only time that they're going to actually, I mean, we're not a flyover state, we're a fly-into state. They fly into here, they go to a bunch of high-priced fundraisers, maybe they show up at some event that they don't tell us is even gonna happen, and then they fly out. So it would have been nice. I think we heard about, I don't know, homelessness and housing just kind of tangentially. It would have been nice to have heard a little bit more about, specifically as voters, what's going on in our state. We spend more money on housing here than anywhere else in the country.
I don't think that's what's going to win the general election. I think we have to talk about the swing states. And when we say that Trump voters are ignorant, that this is a fly-into state, not a fly-over state, then it reinforces this idea that a lot of conservatives have that the Democratic Party is this elitist, coastal elite party that doesn't care about the rest of America.
Well, I think the takeaway from tonight will be, at least in California, is that it was between the progressives. I mean, none of us liked the moderates, Pete or Biden. I mean, the majority, most of us liked Warren or Sanders. So I think that's the takeaway that I think the country's going to get is, well, it's liberal California.
I wish somebody would have talked about the fact that Californians basically finance a lot of the states, especially in the South, that are voting for Trump and voting for the Republicans, and that are looking down on us and saying, oh, we are the libtards and what have you. But we are the ones who are making the money so that they can even survive. And I think if a Trump voter would hear that, maybe they would think differently. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't know that anyone can top that comment or that anyone would want to try. So I think it's time to close the live feed. And if you're still watching, and I hope you are, this is the voice of the people. This is the voice of California. This is an important state. March 3rd is when you get a chance to be heard, and nobody will be heard louder than California on that day. The people in this room may well decide who the next president of the United States is. Thank you for participating, and thank you for watching. Okay, we're not done. We got one more thing with you, which is we're going to show you